First contact and subjugation. The massive alien vessel broke through Earth's atmosphere with surprising grace, its obsidian surface absorbing rather than reflecting the sunlight. People around the world watched through their screens as the ship, nearly 2 kilometers long, hovered above the international meeting grounds in Geneva. This moment, humanity's first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, had finally arrived. Commander Elena Reyes stood at parade rest beside General Whitmore as the delegation assembled. At 38, she'd risen through military ranks with remarkable speed, known for both tactical brilliance and uncommon empathy. Now, as head of Earth's newly formed Space Defense Initiative, she was among the select few chosen to greet whatever emerged from that ominous craft. "Steady," Whitmore murmured, sensing her tension. "Remember your training." Elena nodded, though no training could have prepared any of them for this moment. A soft hum filled the air as a section of the ship's hull dissolved, revealing a ramp that extended toward the ground. 3 tall, slender figures descended. The aliens called themselves the Voidborn. Their spokesman, Ambassador Xorl, stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, studied the human delegation with what Elena immediately recognized as thinly veiled contempt. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Conclave," Xorl announced, its translator device rendering perfect English in a melodious tone. "Your species has been observed for some time. Your technological advancement has finally reached a threshold warranting formal contact." The initial meetings seemed promising. The Voidborn offered knowledge, medical advances that could eliminate disease, energy technology that would end dependence on fossil fuels, and agricultural innovations that would banish hunger. World leaders embraced these gifts, hailing a new golden age for humanity. Only Elena and a handful of others noticed the careful omissions in what the aliens shared. Nothing that could advance human space travel beyond our solar system. Nothing that could be adapted for defensive purposes. Nothing that might put humans on equal footing with the Voidborn. 3 months after first contact, Ambassador Xorl revealed the true purpose of their visit. "The Galactic Conclave requires your formal acceptance of protectorate status," Xorl announced to the United Nations Security Council. "Earth will receive continued technological benefits in exchange for resource rights and compliance with Conclave protocols." The terms were presented as non-negotiable. 20% of Earth's mineral resources would be harvested for Conclave use. Human technological development would be guided and restricted. No human vessel could travel beyond Mars without Voidborn authorization. Voidborn advisors would be stationed in every major city to ensure compliance. "And if we refuse?" asked the Secretary General. Xorl's skin darkened to deep purple. "Then another species within the Conclave would be granted jurisdiction over your world. I assure you, many would implement far harsher terms. Some would not require human consent or continued human existence." The threat was clear. Faced with few options, Earth's governments signed the Protectorate Treaty of 2037. The Golden Age became a gilded cage. 6 months into the occupation, Elena found herself summoned to an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. The complex had been built during the Cold War and upgraded in secret over decades, its existence unknown even to most high-ranking military personnel. Commander Reyes, General Whitmore greeted her in a conference room 20 levels below the surface. "What I'm about to share is known to fewer than 30 people worldwide." He activated a holographic display showing intercepted Voidborn communications. "Our cryptography team cracked a portion of their secure channel. It seems the resources they're harvesting aren't merely for industrial use." He paused, his expression grim. "They're building weapons platforms in orbit around Mars. Weapons aimed at Earth." They never intended a partnership. Elena realized, cold fury building inside her. This was an invasion from the beginning. "A patient one," Whitmore agreed. "They calculated that it's more efficient to have us extract our own resources than to take them by force. But the moment we resist their demands, or become troublesome, The hologram shifted to show simulations of orbital bombardment. Major cities reduced to ash. Billions dead in hours. "Have you informed the Security Council?" Elena asked. "We can't. Void-borne monitoring systems are embedded throughout government communications. Any official channel would alert them immediately." "Then what can we do?" Whitmore's eyes hardened. "We fight back. Off the grid. Outside the system." That meeting became the foundation of Project Phoenix, humanity's secret resistance, using salvaged void-borne technology and human ingenuity. A clandestine team of scientists and engineers began working to develop countermeasures. Their base, an abandoned mining outpost on the dark side of the moon, shielded from void-borne sensors. 2 years passed. On the surface, Earth appeared to accept its role as a conclave protectorate. Clean energy replaced fossil fuels. Disease rates plummeted. Hunger became increasingly rare. The void-borne were portrayed as benefactors in controlled media. Meanwhile, Project Phoenix expanded. Similar facilities were established in deep ocean trenches and remote mountain ranges, connected by quantum-encrypted communications that the void-borne couldn't detect. Every scrap of alien technology was studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. Dr. Eiko Nakamura, once Japan's leading quantum physicist, made the breakthrough that would change everything. "The void-borne ships don't actually fold space as they claim," she explained to Elena during a rare visit to the lunar facility. "They create a localized distortion in space-time that allows them to temporarily step outside normal physical laws." "And we can replicate this?" Elena asked, studying the complex equations floating in the holographic display. Eiko smiled, the first genuine smile Elena had seen in months. "Not replicate. Improve. Their approach is inefficient, constrained by traditions thousands of years old. We're starting fresh, questioning everything. And we've created something they've never seen before." The prototype drive core pulsed with blue-white energy in its containment chamber, a miniature star born of human determination. "How long until we can build a ship around it?" Elena asked. 6 months for a prototype, perhaps a year for something combat-ready." Elena nodded, her gaze fixed on the glowing core. "Then we have a year to prepare for war." The void-borne never saw it coming. They had calculated every variable, assessed every risk, except one. They had fundamentally underestimated human resilience. They believed their technological superiority guaranteed compliance. They didn't understand that throughout human history, oppression had always bred resistance. 3 years into the occupation, Elena stood in the command center of the lunar facility, watching as technicians prepared for the final test of the Phoenix prototype. The ship itself was relatively small, barely 100 meters long, but incorporated everything they had learned from studying void-borne technology. "All systems are green," reported Captain Jimenez from the pilot's seat. "Drive core stable at 80% capacity." "Proceed with full orbital test," Elena ordered. "Maintain stealth protocols." The Phoenix lifted silently from the launch bay, its advanced materials absorbing radar and lidar scans. According to all void-borne sensors, it simply didn't exist. As the ship accelerated around the moon's dark side, Elena felt a surge of fierce pride. This vessel represented not just technological achievement, but the unbreakable human spirit. The void-borne had offered humans a comfortable cage, never realizing they were dealing with a species that would rather die fighting than live on its knees. "Phoenix to command." Jimenez's voice crackled through the speakers. "Test complete. All systems performed beyond expectations. We're coming home." Elena turned to General Whitmore, who had been silently observing the test. "We're ready." The old soldier nodded, his eyes reflecting the same determination she felt. "Then it's time to show the void-borne what humanity is truly capable of." Humanity's counterattack. 5 years after the void-borne arrival, Earth had been transformed. Gleaming arcologies rose from formerly polluted cities. Advanced agricultural systems turned deserts green. Medical centers cured ailments once considered fatal. On the surface, humanity appeared to be thriving under alien guidance. Below that veneer of progress, resentment festered. The resource quotas grew more demanding each year. Voidborn advisors interfered in every aspect of governance. Children were taught revised history that portrayed humans as primitive beings uplifted by benevolent aliens. Anyone who questioned the narrative disappeared into educational facilities. Deep within Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter, the Resistance had built its stronghold. Inside massive chambers carved from rock and metal, humanity's secret fleet took shape. 5 warships, each larger and more advanced than the Phoenix prototype, waited in their berths. Commander Elena Reyes, now bearing the scars of a resistance fighter, addressed the assembled crew of the flagship, the HSV Defiance. 5 years ago, the Voidborn came to our world offering gifts hiding chains. She began, her voice carrying through the launch bay. They believed we would accept subjugation in exchange for comfort. They expected gratitude for their scraps while they stripped our world bare. She paused, her eyes moving across the faces before her. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, pilots, all volunteers who had left behind families and lives on Earth to serve the Resistance. Today, we show them how wrong they were. Today, humanity stands up. The plan was audacious. Intelligence gathered by resistance cells on Earth indicated that the Voidborn Overseer Council would be gathering aboard their command ship in Mars orbit. The fleet would launch a coordinated strike, targeting not just the command vessel, but the weapons platforms threatening Earth. Commence launch sequence, Elena ordered from the Defiance's bridge. Around her, officers monitored systems as the massive hangar doors slid open, revealing the star-filled void. Drive core at optimal capacity, reported Lieutenant Commander Okafor, her hands moving confidently across the controls. Stealth systems engage. One by one, the 5 ships of humanity's secret fleet emerged from their asteroid hideaway, their hulls designed to absorb rather than reflect sensor scans. Using the revolutionary drive system, they crossed the distance to Mars in hours rather than months, undetected by Voidborn monitoring stations. The Voidborn command ship loomed ahead, a massive structure nearly 5 kilometers long. Surrounding it were the weapons platforms they had constructed, planet killers aimed at Earth as the ultimate enforcement mechanism. "They've detected us," Okafor announced as proximity alarms sounded. Voidborn vessels moving to intercept. "Deploy countermeasures," Elena ordered calmly. "Bring main weapons online." The human fleet scattered in a pre-planned formation as Voidborn ships emerged from around Mars. These were true warships, not the diplomatic vessels humans had seen before. Sleek, predatory craft bristling with weapons. "Incoming transmission," Communications Officer Park announced. "It's the Voidborn Overseer." The main display flickered, revealing the familiar 4-eyed visage of Ambassador Xorl, though now dressed in military regalia rather than diplomatic robes. "This is a most disappointing development," Xorl said, its tone conveying something between amusement and annoyance. "Your primitive vessels cannot hope to challenge Conclave supremacy. Stand down immediately, and perhaps only the leadership of this insurrection will be purged." Elena's smile was cold as winter. "We decline your generous offer, Ambassador. You should have listened when we warned you about humanity's capacity for resistance." She cut the transmission with a gesture and turned to her weapons officer. "Target their primary command node. Fire when ready." The battle erupted across the Martian orbit, a dazzling display of energy weapons and tactical maneuvers. The Voidborn ships were powerful and numerous, but they fought according to doctrines thousands of years old, against an enemy that had studied their every weakness. The human vessels darted through their formations, striking with precision before relocating, their advanced drive systems allowing maneuvers the Voidborn had never encountered. Innovative shield harmonics, developed by studying fragments of Voidborn technology, deflected alien weapons that should have torn through their hulls. On the Defiance's bridge, Elena coordinated the assault, adjusting tactics as the Voidborn attempted to adapt. Focus fire on grid coordinates 117 to 38, she ordered as a section of the enemy command ship's defenses faltered. All ships, execute pattern Sierra. The human fleet moved in concert, concentrating their attack on the vulnerable point. Energy beams converged, and a massive explosion bloomed silently in space as the Voidborn command ship shields collapsed. Direct hit on their primary power core, Okafor reported, her voice steady despite the chaos of battle. Their systems are failing. Elena nodded. Target the weapons platforms. We need to eliminate the threat to Earth. Around them, the tide of battle shifted. 2 human ships had suffered significant damage, but the Voidborn fleet was in disarray. Their command structure disrupted, they fought as individuals rather than a coordinated force. The Defiance rocked as a Voidborn cruiser scored a direct hit. Port shields down to 30%, came the damage report. Hull breach on Deck 7. Containment fields holding. Bring us about, Elena ordered. Prepare to deploy the Sunflare. The Sunflare was their last resort, a weapon developed by combining Voidborn energy technology with human nuclear science. It would generate an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to disable any Voidborn system within range, but using it would also drain their own shields completely. As the Defiance positioned for the attack run, long-range sensors detected new arrivals. More ships were emerging from fold space, but these weren't Voidborn designs. Unknown vessels entering the engagement zone, Park announced, confusion evident in her voice. They're targeting the Voidborn fleet. The newcomers' ships were elegant organic curves rather than the angular Voidborn vessels. Their weapons tore through the already disorganized Voidborn with devastating efficiency. We're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel, Park said. Audio only. Human warriors. Came a melodious voice unlike any Voidborn translator. We are the Luminary. We have watched your struggle against Voidborn tyranny with great interest. Your courage has inspired many who have suffered under Conclave oppression. Fight on. You are no longer alone. The battle ended within hours. The Voidborn command ship surrendered after losing its primary weapons and propulsion. The orbital platforms threatening Earth were dismantled. Ambassador Chloral, once so condescending, was brought aboard the Defiance in restraints. You have no concept of what you've done, Sorrel hissed, its skin flushed angry red. The Conclave will send forces that will make this fleet look insignificant. Elena studied the alien calmly. Perhaps, but according to our new allies, the Conclave is already fracturing. It seems your subjugation tactics weren't popular with everyone. The days that followed brought revelations. The Luminary were only one of several species that had chafed under Voidborn dominance within the Conclave. Humanity's successful resistance had become a catalyst, inspiring others to challenge the established order. 1 month after the Battle of Mars, as it came to be known, Elena stood before the United Nations General Assembly, now free of Voidborn influence for the first time in years. We face an uncertain future, she told the assembled representatives of humanity. The galaxy is more complex and dangerous than we imagined, but we have proven something vital, not just to the Voidborn, but to ourselves. Humanity will not surrender its freedom. We will not accept chains, no matter how they are disguised. She gestured to the Luminary ambassador who stood beside her, along with representatives from 2 other alien species who had broken from the Conclave. And we have found that we are not alone in valuing liberty. Together with our new allies, we will forge a different path, not as protectorates, but as equals. As Elena concluded her address, ships from the human fleet performed a ceremonial flyover, now joined by vessels of their alien allies. Their contrails painted the sky in streaks of white against the blue, a new beginning written across the heavens. In a secure facility beneath Geneva, Sorrel and the captured Voidborn officers watched the display on a monitor, their once arrogant postures now subdued. You still don't understand what makes humans different to you? Asked General Whitmore, who had been observing their reactions. Sorrel's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. They are technologically inferior. They should have accepted their proper place. Whitmore smiled slightly. That's where you made your fatal mistake. Throughout our history, every time someone has told humans to accept their place, we fought back. It's not about technology. It's about spirit. He turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. You mocked our warnings about resistance. You dismissed our capacity to fight. Then humanity's warships entered the battlefield. And the galaxy will never be the same. As the door closed behind him, distant cheers could be heard from the crowds outside, celebrating a freedom that tasted sweeter for having been lost and reclaimed. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged stronger, ready to take its place among the stars, not as servants, but as equals.